Yo, what's up, lovely people? Yo, what are you guys doing this week? Did you have plans maybe around this time of year for the summer that you don't really get to do anymore? Like maybe it was something very extreme. Our high school students, we were going to go out this summer to Wilmington, North Carolina, and do some extreme home makeovers to some houses out there that need a lot of work from hurricane damage several weeks ago. And right now, as I'm speaking, it's Monday, right before this Wednesday video drops, and we're preparing for like a tropical storm, right? The first one of the year. And it's actually one of the earliest ones to ever hit Hampton Roads. And that's kind of extreme. Hurricanes are extreme. What else is extreme during the summer? Maybe it's the Olympics. Maybe you are super hyped like me for the summer Olympics. Like, what's your favorite Olympic sport for the summer? What's your top one? I love it all, man. I love it all. Like swimming is always dope. Like I grew up around the champ Michael Phelps, and so like that was always hype for me. I think they had skateboarding every once in a while, but that's usually for like the X Games and stuff. But like Summer Olympics is usually always pretty dope. Always really extreme, right? Like these people train their entire lives to get ready for this extreme sport, and they just go head to head against the best of the best in the world. It's really extreme. What's like the most extreme thing you've ever done in your entire life? Like I really want you to like think really hard. What is the most extreme thing you've ever done? For me, it sounded really lame, but for me, one of the moments was March 2009. All right, so like I was a sophomore at Mid-Atlantic Christian University, and I was looking for some kind of adventure. I had gone through like a little bit of a depressing spell there that first semester. It didn't really go the way I wanted it to, and so second semester I had this brilliant spur of the moment idea. All right, and sometimes spur of the moment ideas work out, sometimes they don't work out. I'm gonna tell you about a story that did not work out. All right, so spur of the moment, I decided I was going to camp out on the beach in Outer Banks, all right, in March. I invited three of my friends. Two of them were like, yeah, it's a great idea. One was like, no, it's a terrible idea. And so for our packing gear, again, spur of the moment, no tents or sleeping bags. It was just my bedding from my dorm room in a jacket to sleep on the beach in March. Stupidest idea ever. So we do this in this extreme action. Like I said, it's the dumbest idea ever. And I'm just going to tell you, it did not work out. It ended with us getting like 3 hours of sleep that night. We woke up. I had a cold from sleeping on the sand, covered in sand. We rose out of the sand like mummies at like 7 a.m. during sunrise. And this couple behind us on the pier were like just laughing at us. It was awful. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about doing something extreme. We usually ask ourselves, is this a risk worth taking? Sometimes we ask that question. Usually we ask that question. Maybe you don't ask that question, and maybe you should more often because you have like scars on your body and broken ribs and just no common sense to show for it. But generally, when you're taking a risk, you ask like, all right, is this a risk we're taking? Is this extreme action a risk we're taking? Or is it just a dumb decision? Is this risk worth taking? Some people are more risk takers than others. Like, are you a big risk taker? Do you like taking risks? I can tell you I'm not. All right. So personally, I've always been afraid of like harsh consequences for taking risks because a lot of times risk taking gets associated with rule breaking. And so I'm like, I'm not about that. But when I look at the life of Jesus, he was a big risk taker. All right. So Jesus certainly wasn't afraid of taking extreme actions. And sometimes he was even willing to break the rules to make these extreme actions go about. So he was willing to do anything for people because he believed people were absolutely worth it. And again, that's taking the whole risk. Is this risk, this extreme action, is it a risk worth taking? I want you guys to check out this passage from Philippians 2:3-4. It's going to be our verse for the month as we talk about extreme actions, just like in our photo up here with the dude jumping off the cliff. I would never do that. Maybe you would. But this verse, Philippians 2, 3-4, says this. It says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of others. So this is Paul. He writes this to the church in Philippi, writing about Jesus years after Jesus' death. And he's writing this about, so like later on in this passage, he talks about how Jesus valued others about himself, how he humbled himself, about how he did not come to earth to serve himself, but to serve others, even to death on the cross. And what Paul's saying here, when he's writing years after Jesus' death, he's saying, hey, I'm encouraging you, Christians, to be extreme doers for others like Jesus. It's a risk we're taking. So Paul's saying, follow Jesus' extreme example, where he put others, anyone and everyone, above and before himself. And we know this whole idea of anyone and everyone is extreme for Jesus, because when people said, who's my neighbor, he gives the story of the Good Samaritan, and connecting it with that. Like, Jesus believed that anyone and everyone is your neighbor, and you're to love them as yourself. And Paul's saying here, Jesus, man, he just loved people as himself. He put other people, he valued them above himself. He gave them value. And I think a lot of people today, especially in 2020, would think Jesus was a radical, a fanatic, even a crazy man. And each week of the month of August, we're going to dive straight into one of Jesus' most counter-cultural messages, so you can just see how far Jesus would say Christians need to go to love people. Because if you follow God, he's going to call you to extreme actions. So check out this verse. All right, so this is Philippians 1, 3-6. Paul says this: I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it into completion until the day of Jesus Christ. So Paul, he lays out this prayer. He's praying for the people of Philippi, that Jesus would complete the work that he began in the day that he came to them. All right. So like maybe you've been a Christian for a few months, maybe a Christian for a few years, and you're still not doing this whole extreme thing, right? Like for Christ. Maybe your walk for Jesus just isn't that extreme. It's full of Sunday mornings, virtual or limited person right now, or like you're just around your family at that time, and that's it. But the truth is, guys, every day you are left with decisions, whether you've been a Christian for a few months, few years, few days, few weeks, or maybe like you haven't really considered it yet. Every day you're left with decisions on how you choose to react to what's going on in your life, the things that are happening to you and around you. And like what Paul is saying here in Philippians, God is still doing a work in you. And like Paul's prayer was for Philippi, that God would continue to complete the work that he's doing in them. I'm praying that God will continue to complete the work that he's doing in you. Because I believe that God has called you to something more extreme than maybe you are currently living out right now. Whether you've been an extreme follower of Jesus or not, you can choose right now to risk what you have to gain the life of Jesus that is actually calling you to live out. And it's going to require you to say, hey, I'm going to value others above myself. So this month, we're going to unpack how our actions show how much we value ourselves versus how much we value others. We're going to be looking at Matthew chapter 5 to dive into this principle. It's going to be 4 lessons that Jesus dives into about extreme value in Matthew 5, 38-42. And I hope you guys will tune in with us every Wednesday as we continue our summer series, The Good Word, as we dive into this idea of, for August and the first week of September, Extreme Actions, a Good Word series, how we value others and how it's a risk we're taking. I'm going to pray it out, and then I hope to see you guys next Wednesday, or maybe I'll see you Sunday at church. We'll see. Let's pray. God, I thank you so much for this day, Father. I thank you for your love and your word, Lord. I pray that you would just lead us to living out this extreme life, Father, that you've called us to live. And Father, that we would just see it as a risk worth taking, as Jesus saw a risk worth taking, valuing others above himself. God, it's in your son's name I pray. Amen. All right, yo, hope you guys have a great week. I will see you later.